You're watching ABC 7 News at 7.
I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
We've had this discussion at least for maybe 20, 30 years now.
Violence is all around us in music, movies, and video games, but do they have an impact on molding our kids' minds? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the impact of violent video games in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. It was one of the most horrific murders on the Suncoast in memory. The man convicted of kidnapping, raping, and killing 11-year-old Carly Bruscia will now get a new sentencing hearing. Today, the Florida Supreme Court ordering a hearing for Joseph Smith because the jury that recommended the death sentence was not unanimous. The 2004 case received national publicity after a surveillance camera captured images of Smith kidnapping the teenager. Days later, she was found dead behind an East Sarasota church. Smith was later found guilty and sentenced to death.
We're certainly disappointed by the ruling from the higher court, but we understand and respect the ruling from the court. We know that subsequent to obtaining the conviction in this case, that there had been a change in the law regarding the death penalty and the unanimity and the jury making that final recommendations.
Brodsky went on to say he is now prepared to move forward with the new jury and will seek the death penalty. A 27-year-old Oklahoma man is behind bars after he traveled to Venice to have sex with a 15-year-old. Sheriff's deputies arrested Angelo Trigoso Jara at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. The 15-year-old victim says she met him on a website designed for strangers to meet anonymously online. Detectives say he was aware of the victim's age. He allegedly picked the victim up from her home and took her to a hotel. The victim's mother contacted the sheriff's office and detectives later tracked him down. He faces charges including 5 counts of lewd and lascivious battery on the victim under 16. A follow-up now on efforts to limit public access to Sarasota High School through School Avenue. The Sarasota County School District wants a temporary gate to limit sidewalk access while students are on campus, followed by a permanent plan to close the road. The district is now trying to set up a meeting with city leaders despite a nearby neighborhood association claims that the road is unfair to pedestrians.
It certainly can be the most convenient when you're riding a bike or when you're walking, but on the other hand, you're talking about a mere block either way to get where you're going.
The first step in that two-part process would be, can we secure the campus of Sarasota High School in a meaningful way before kids come back in August of 2018?
A date has not been set for the meeting. School safety taking center stage today in Sarasota. Sheriff Tom Knight, State Senator Greg Steube, and county school officials debated at the Tiger Bay Club. Sheriff Knight says he has submitted his school safety proposal to the school board yesterday, and if the board decides to go with his plan, placing a deputy from the sheriff's office in all elementary schools, it would save the district over $950,000.
We know what we have to do, what the law says, and we're prepared to do it. We've been working on it. My proposal's there. I think I asked them by May 31st to let me know if they want to do it, to give me time to get people hired and trained to get them on the campuses before next school year.
The idea, he says, is to keep kids safe and providing security to all schools in the district. A neighborhood in Sarasota County is under a boil water advisory tonight. If you live on Coronado Drive, you should boil your tap water as a precaution. There is a water outage in the area. When the county has finished its analysis, homeowners will be contacted by phone. Survivors of the Pulse nightclub massacre have filed a federal lawsuit against Google, Facebook, and Twitter, claiming they helped spread terrorist propaganda. The complaint filed in Orlando by 16 survivors of the June 2016 attack says the companies profited by the content posted by the Islamic State. A similar lawsuit filed by the victims' families against 3 social media giants was dismissed by a federal judge last week. Governor Rick Scott will fight a judge's ruling requiring the state to overhaul the controversial process for restoring ex-felons' voting rights. Attorney General Pam Bondi's office filed a notice of appeal at the Atlanta-based 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, but the judge, in a sharply worded decision, quickly rejected Bondi's request for a stay and reiterated the state's current process for restoring rights is unconstitutional.
We have been following the law. We firmly believe it is the law in the state of Florida, and we plan on enforcing the laws. And that's what I do as Chief Legal Officer of the state of Florida. So yes, we are appealing it, and we will appeal it to the highest court.
Under the current process, ex-felons must wait 5 or 7 years after their sentences are complete to apply for their rights to be restored. Now let's head over to ABC 7's Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the First Alert forecast. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. You may have noticed if you were out this morning, a little lower humidity, a bit of a breeze out of the northwest. That's ushered in some drier air, and that makes it feel a little bit more comfortable out there. And we have had some high surf out there at times due to that strong north to northwest wind, anywhere from 15 to 20 miles an hour. Some gusty conditions too. Beautiful sunset anticipated for this evening. Send your photos into pics. PIX at mysuncoast.com. Well, 76 right now. Comfortable, 45% on the relative humidity. That's low. North winds at 9. And that pressure is high, 30 inches even. A Titan radar picture depicting some showers down to our south associated with that old frontal boundary, the cold front, which is now really a division between the dry air and the warm, moist air. And we're seeing that dry air settle in here, as I mentioned, with those low dew point temperatures, but some pretty heavy rainfall now in Monroe County, spreading off toward the Keys. I mentioned those winds a little bit stronger out here near the water, less frictional effects as those winds come in out of the west-northwest, anywhere from 10 to 20 miles an hour. A little less action as you move inland, but still a bit of a breeze out of the north there at Northport at 11 miles an hour, 15 at Manasota Beach. Well, the day planner looks good tomorrow. Another nice day, beautiful out there. Some clouds around noon, not much. We'll have partly cloudy skies. We will see a little increase in that humidity value, though, as winds start to switch around more to a southeasterly direction, and then that moisture will be in place for a chance for a few showers come late Saturday. We're going to talk about some snowstorms, 3 that are heading toward the upper Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes, and possibly the Northeast.
Do you feel sorry for all those snowbirds who already went home?
They're calling me. They're saying, we need to come back down. That's right.
They slept, Bob. And still to come, what impact do video games, music, and movies have on kids?
My name is Stephen Jaffe. The law firm's name is Farmer Jaffe. One of the beautiful things about Julius is he's always smiling, and it becomes infectious. The fact that Julius has a disability has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of work that he's done. Just a great person you want on your staff.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Set your course for a waterfront lifestyle on Florida's last private island. Discover One Particular Harbor by Margaritaville. Nearby sugar sand beaches are as easy to find as the warm Florida sunshine. Waterfront residences from the high 400s overlook beautiful Anna Maria Sound. And a new marina with direct access to the Gulf of Mexico. Plus, incredible savings on move-in ready homes. Come tour designer models today. Visit ophmintousa.com now.
20 years ago, the moviegoers of Sarasota looked up at the silver screen and wanted something more. And they got exactly what they wanted. 20 years of some of the best independent films from around the world. The most iconic Hollywood stars walking the red carpet. The most glamorous parties in Southwest Florida. 20 years building up to the most exciting announcement in, well, 20 years. At the Sarasota Film Festival, April 13th to the 22nd.
Are you a soccer mom or dad? Regardless of their age or experience level, when your kids play soccer or any other sport, there's one person on the sideline who is key to help recognize and seek medical care for sports-related concussion. It's you. You need to know the signs and symptoms of concussion, and you need to act if you think your child has been injured. Remember, when in doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now. Download the all-new ABC7 First Alert Weather app now.
In the week since Parkland, there has been a renewed debate about banning assault weapons, school security, mental illness, and the minimum age you can buy a firearm. President Trump and the NRA and many conservatives believe violent video games are also responsible for mass shootings like Parkland. Tonight, Dwayne Lindo takes a look.
Well, Alan, at the same time, many studies conducted on the subject suggest quite the opposite, saying these violent games aren't the only factor for violent behavior in real life.
On video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
It was just earlier this year, President Donald Trump pointing the finger at video games during a White House meeting on school safety, to blame for many of the nation's school shootings. And although Trump is steadfast, former District 72 House race candidate Allison Foxall feels there isn't a direct correlation between playing these games and violent behavior in real life.
We've had this discussion at least for maybe 20, 30 years now. Like you said, started in Columbine, then we saw it again in Virginia Tech. It seems like every 10 years we're having this discussion.
A discussion, she says, at this point is one-dimensional.
Our culture has kind of a culture of violence, and I think we need to look at that in greater depth of why are we like this and how can we change that. This is a situation where we need to come together as a community because there is mental health going on and we're ignoring these problems.
Clinical psychologist Eddie Renier agrees. He says for someone with a poor mental state, violent video games can enhance the chances of someone committing an act of violence.
So there's so many other factors to explain their violence that you can't just think it's one unitary source that say watching violent movies or playing video games lead to violence. It's such an easy correlation, it's just not there.
He says rather than the dangers in video games, tragedies like Parkland signify other issues as well.
Suggests there's an addiction process going on, there's not enough parental supervision going on, there's level of issues going on.
According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, with the rise in new technologies such as tablets and new gaming platforms, children and adolescents increasingly are exposed to what's known as virtual violence. It is also pointed out that it's estimated the typical child will have seen 8,000 murders and 100,000 violent acts before they reach middle school. But as Renier points out, blaming video games for real-life violence is just shifting the blame, especially when you look at the numbers.
Millions of kids play video games. If they were unsafe, if they led to violence, we would have violence unprecedented in our society.
But it's games like Grand Theft Auto, Thrill Kill, and Manhunt that some say can be dangerous.
Condoning it in any way and allowing them to watch it without any comment or censorship, but it does lay the potential foundation for somebody that's having a bad day to think that maybe it's okay.
Local businessman Martin Hyde says there may be kids out there playing these games with a predisposition towards aggression.
And yes, I do think that it's especially dangerous for immature minds.
And a recent study from the American Psychological Association backs Hyde, saying violent video game play is linked to increased aggression in players. But insufficient evidence exists about whether the link extends to criminal violence or delinquency. Hyde says, despite the studies, the impact these games have on kids are just too vast to ignore.
When it comes down to it, this is on every one of us, not just on the parents, it's on the teachers, it's on the peers. It's to send another message on a daily basis that this kind of violence isn't the way to get things done.
Now, Martin Hyde mentioned parents as being a key factor. Both the Psychological Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics suggest that parents take an active interest and monitor any games played by children.
Dwayne, thank you. In a moment, the trapezoid, a respected Sarasota psychologist, a respected Republican state representative, and a school grief counselor. Stay with us.
When my youngest, Addie, was 2.5, she was diagnosed with leukemia. When we first heard that diagnosis, You feel extremely alone. Walking in that Light the Night light with 6,000 people carrying lights, white for survivors, red for supporters, gold in memory of those who have passed. It's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's hope that every year there are fewer gold lanterns. Your lantern will make a difference.
Start a team, join a team.
Help us light the night.
Designers do it with style.
Tell me what's going on here, because
Why, you don't like my hair?
The Mark and Mandy Show. In-depth design ideas.
What is up with the tuck tape here? Let's cover it up.
Amazing beauty and fashion tips.
So Halle Berry has amazing skin. Her secret is coffee grounds.
No.
Delicious recipes.
Today, I'm gonna show you a special dish that is sure to please that special someone in your life.
Watch The Mark and Mandy Show right here on your favorite channel.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration. Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7's Good Morning Suncoast.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Webb.
And I'm Ray Collins. It's the first Friday of the month. And that means one thing, music on Main and Lakewood Ranch.
We'll tell you who's headlining the big party and all you need to know about this month's event. That's tomorrow on Good Morning Suncoast. John?
So we watch a big ridge of high pressure build in and bring us fair skies right straight through most of the weekend. We'll talk all about the forecast.
Tomorrow at 5 on ABC7's Good Morning Suncoast. We're here for you.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Welcome back. It has become a predictable refrain every time there is a mass shooting at a school. Gun control advocates blame the availability of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Gun rights supporters blame violent video games for warping young minds and desensitizing teenagers to violence and to death. And joining us for more are Republican State Representative Julio Gonzalez, psychologist Eddie Ranier, and Candy Magnotti, a grief counselor in the Sarasota area. Thank you all for joining us today. And let us set up this conversation by some comments made by President Trump recently after the Parkland shooting. Let's take a look.
I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts. And then you go the further step, and that's the movies. You see these movies, they're so violent, and yet a kid is able to see the movie.
Julio, do you believe or agree with what the president says here in terms of these violent video games particularly being causational to some of the violence that we see?
Well, they're definitely a factor. They definitely influence the culture that we're raised in. They influence the thoughts and the minds of the kids who are playing with it. They also, some of the literature that you were citing in your introduction, they also affect brain development. So there's no question that it is a factor. To what degree and whether it's an actual causative relationship on any one crime, that's a far different question.
Do you agree?
Well, as you said, the American Psychological Association saw an association, a correlation between violent games and violent movies and some violence. However, a better way to look at it is risk factors. No single risk factor is enough to explain the behavior. But if you have multiple risk factors, that is social economic class, mental health, parenting, and other factors may affect what the outcome is, whether it is violence or not. But to just blame video games or movies on violence is probably nearsighted, too nearsighted.
Candy, you deal with a lot of young people who are dealing with trauma and crisis. What do they tell you?
Well, what I know for sure from working with clients of all ages is that gun violence, and there is a correlation between gun violence and video games, but that is not the only reason why certain things like that we're seeing is happening. Why it's happening is because people are in pain. And children that are experienced or that experience trauma in the household, they are the ones that are more likely to actually go out and do something like we've seen in Parkland. It's a grief and trauma issue. I actually want to move the conversation from mental health. I want us to stop calling it that because it's not a mental health issue. I've worked with people who are mentally ill, and most of them would never hurt another soul. In fact, they're the ones that tend to be abused and taken advantage of in society. So this isn't a mental health issue. This is an emotional pain. This is a grief and trauma issue. And there are studies, specifically the ACEs study, that supports exactly what I'm saying.
You know, I don't know if most people know, but you're not only an orthopedic surgeon, but you're an attorney. And when we have heard the debate on this issue in terms of the mental illness as it relates to guns, there have been people out there saying that you cannot discriminate against the mentally ill on this issue because of varying reasons and because of equal access.
Well, you know, the question, the key word that you use there is discriminate. It depends on the context. Obviously, everybody deserves a chance. Everybody deserves to have an equal opportunity to thrive in life. But like I think the consensus of your panel today is, we do believe that there is certain factors that set up certain types of behavior, certain types of problems.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more on violent video games right after we check the First Alert weather, so stay with us.
Want the latest weather and traffic conditions wherever you go? Introducing ABC7's revolutionary new First Alert weather app. With our state-of-the-art new weather app, you get up-to-the-minute weather alerts, interactive radar maps, current conditions, 10-day forecasts, real-time traffic maps, and weather video from ABC7, all at your fingertips. And it's free. Just search Suncoast WX in the App Store and download onto all your devices today. Sponsored by Mr. Sparky.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard live up to a set of time-honored principles.
I will always place the mission first.
They stand ready to respond to any crisis.
I will never accept defeat.
They serve in their communities as citizens and as soldiers.
I will never quit.
They train part-time to be ready to serve at all times.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
Learn more at NationalGuard.com.
Chris Domine is a husband, father, an athlete, even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris's kidneys were failing.
The doctor said if you don't do dialysis, if you don't get a kidney transplant, you are going to die.
Then Chris received a second chance, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
Imagine what you could make possible. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live.
I live.
She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
Our conversation on violent video games continues right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. The first forecast has come out from Colorado State University on the upcoming tropical season for 2018 in the Atlantic Basin. And Dr. Philip Klotzblau of Colorado State University, they've been doing this for over 30 years, and they're the best in terms of getting the numbers right. But the numbers don't mean a whole lot because all it takes is one storm to hit us to make it an active season. What's happening is we're going to have a weak La Nina and then probably neutral El Nino throughout most of the summer months. And last year we had a strong La Nina, and that's the reason why we saw a lot of storms developing. One factor that may contribute to a little bit above average is a warm western Atlantic, but then negating factor to that is a cool East Atlantic right now. So we'll see how it plays out, but the projection is for 14 named storms. That's a couple above average, and then 7 of those becoming hurricanes. That's slightly above average, and then of that, 2 major hurricanes as the average. We're expecting 3. And again, all that is due to several different factors that they keep an eye on. So we'll watch them closely, obviously, right here at ABC7. And the water temperatures are unusually warm here in the Caribbean and in the southwestern portion of the Atlantic. And that's the reason why we're expecting maybe slightly above average season. And it's cooler than normal over the North Atlantic as well as into the East Atlantic right now. And that usually means less hurricanes. So there's a lot of different factors going in. And that's the reason why we are expecting and anticipating a average or slightly above average season. A 39% chance for an East Coast hit. That's from Maine all the way down to the peninsula of Florida. Average over the past 60 years or so, about 31%. So slightly above average chances of getting a big hit here. Well, here's the forecast then as we see it for the next 7 days. We're going to start here and say 82 tomorrow. So it'll be a nice day, lots of sunshine out there. Temperatures will be a little bit cooler to start the morning off too. And then we'll see a 50% chance of showers on into Saturday evening. Again, that's a result of a frontal system coming through. 30% chance on Sunday. That'll be Sunday morning mainly, so don't cancel your plans for the entire day. We have another front coming down, a very active progressive pattern that's in place right now. So we will see another front approach late Monday and into Tuesday. Tuesday being the best chance for rainfall. That'll be at 50%. And then a 30% chance for showers on Wednesday morning. But notice temperatures, they stay pretty much into the upper 70s to low 80s throughout the days. For boaters on Friday, we had a bit of a breeze there today. We'll have east winds turning to the southwest at 10 knots. Seas running right around 2 feet with a light chop on the bays and inland waters. And as far as our forecast is concerned, we are anticipating just a few clouds and showers here, as I said, late Saturday. But the weekend shouldn't be a total washout. Different story, though, as we move through Friday. Get a look at this snowstorm expected from Minnesota, northern Wisconsin into Michigan, even some ice and freezing rain near Toledo and stretching off toward Cleveland. This is going to be a kind of a nasty storm for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And then that snow falls all the way down into West Virginia, Kentucky, and into southeast Missouri as this winter refuses to leave over the northern plains and throughout the Great Lakes. Another snowstorm will develop on Sunday. There it is, moving through parts of the Dakotas into Minnesota, Iowa, freezing rain near St. Louis, and then more snow for Chicago, so they can't get over it. Here is Washington near Baltimore on Monday. More snow and freezing rain for those folks. Alan will be back with his guests right after this.
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it. Colon and rectal cancers are the second leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the U.S. Colon cancer is preventable. Know the risk factors and make sure to get screened. There are simple, take-home options available. Take control of your health. Screening for colon cancer isn't embarrassing. It can be life-saving. To find out more about your options, visit fightcrc.org.
ABC7 is gearing up for this year's JDRF One Walk on Saturday, April 7th at Nathan Benderson Park, and we'd love for you to join us. Hi, I'm Jacqueline Matter, and this is my friend Emma Bella, who lives with type 1 diabetes.
The JDRF One Walk helps raise awareness and funds for kids with type 1 diabetes, and it's fun too.
Walk with us and make a difference.
And help kids like us.
For more information, visit walk.jdrf.org.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
there was this big bruise on my friend's face. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to think her own nephew could have hit her.
I didn't want to see it. My mother's bank account was emptied, and a caregiver had taken control of it.
I didn't want to see it. My father's refrigerator. There was hardly anything in it. That's unusual for him.
It's tough to see that a senior citizen is being abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, or financially. Elder abuse is a crime.
So see the signs, stop the crimes.
Welcome back. We are talking about school shootings and the impact of violent video games on youngsters. And joining us for more are Republican State Representative Julio Gonzalez, psychologist Eddie Rainier, and Candy Magnotti, a grief counselor in the Sarasota area. Representative, one of the titans of the conservative judiciary has always been Antonin Scalia. And the Supreme Court back in 2011 ruled on an issue involving violent video games. I want to put Justice Scalia's opinion that he wrote for the majority up on the screen there. He said psychological studies purporting to show a connection between exposure to violent video games and harmful effects on children do not prove that such exposure causes minors to act aggressively, said Justice Scalia, writing for the 5 justices in the majority. Any demonstrated effects are both small and indistinguishable from effects produced by other media. But so often after we have these massacres like Parkland or Sandy Hook, you hear folks like either the president or the NRA zeroing in on violent video games as really causational to this.
You have to be careful in how you parse a legal opinion, because the standard for proof there is very different than the standard of proof or the standard of opinion that people would have at another arena. So that being said, I think I can relate and understand where the justice is coming from. However, I think the literature, as you have discussed previously, is mixed. But I think there is a gelling, there is a coming of a consensus that demonstrates that there is an association between aggressive behavior, aggressive thoughts, maybe degrees of unhappiness, particularly in teenagers, and correlating that with participation in violent video games. There's also other factors that are not maybe directly related, things like lesser of an ability to engage in social skills and social interaction. We used to go out and play ball down the street. Now you're kind of looking at a screen. So although that opinion legally is probably still sound, I think as the literature has evolved, I think there's a gelling, that there is some correlation there.
I realize, Doctor, that you're going to find research that shows anything to anybody, but there was another piece of research I wanted to point out. It's from USC. And a researcher there saying, quote, researchers find that people serving time for violent crimes typically consume less media before committing their crimes than the average person in the general population. When it comes to video games, the overwhelming majority of kids who play do not commit antisocial acts.
True. Justice Scalia's opinion is as true today as it was then, and I sort of disagree. I think that an association or correlation doesn't mean causation, and the studies certainly show that some people, a minority of people, are affected by video games, but the majority, vast majority, have no ill effects. And of the people who commit violent acts, when we look at them, we find out that they suffer from mental disorder, they have addictive problems, they have bad homes, they have violence in the home, lots of other risk factors. So when in view of looking at the basket of risk factors that such people present, it is difficult to then say this one is the cause of it. In fact, we can't make that conclusion.
I'd like to really move the conversation a little forward, though, because I feel like we've heard this over and over again. When a shooting happens, we want to find a reason to blame. And in reality, what blame is a way to just discharge pain and discomfort. And the reason that we blame is because we're trying to get a sense of control in a very vulnerable, uncontrollable world. And the inverse of blame is actually accountability. And nobody really wants to take accountability for what's happening in our society.
In what way?
In what way is that this is not, it's easy to say it's mental health or it's video games or violence. Yes, that's easy ways to blame, but in reality what's happening is these children, these men, these boys who are picking up a gun and going to school and shooting people is because they are in deep emotional pain. They are in grief. They've experienced a litany. I could give you a whole list of different traumas that they've experienced, which does change how the brain develops, okay? So it's a societal issue. We all have to take responsibility and accountability here.
Let me put it this way. I mean, but part of it is, it is a political discussion, and it's going to be politics in terms of the laws that we pass that will or will not solve the problem. The fact is, what you're talking about is, it happens all around the world in all sorts of countries. There was another story that I read today who said that in Japan, you have very violent video games, but you do not have gun-related massacres like we saw just a few weeks ago because, Representative, the availability of the guns is not there.
Well, that varies between cultures and it varies between societies, but let's clarify a few things. First of all, the gelling within the literature about the association with aggressive behavior and exposure, lots of exposure to violent video games is there. There's a 2014 meta-analysis, 2,900 studies that were compiled, and the literature was reviewed in a very scientific manner, and it did demonstrate that there was, number one, more aggressive behavior on the part of children who participated in violent video games, and number two, there was more positive behavior, more empathy amongst children who participated in socially promoting games. So from that standpoint, yeah, there is definitely a correlation, whether it's causative in any one particular case or not. That is a different discussion, but there's no question that it's related.
So, many times the answers are not either or. It's a lot of combination of different things. But you're the psychologist here. If we banned these ultra-violent games, would we see fewer school shootings like we just saw?
Absolutely not. I think that politically we're looking for an scapegoat, an easy solution to a very complex problem. Another way to look at it is that the kind of school violence we see happens because people have access to these terrible weapons, these assault weapons, that a kid should be able to easily buy an assault weapon and go to school and shoot a bunch of people. It's an easy, if you want to not discuss the weapons, to discuss video game causing violence. Video games certainly, no matter how much association with a video game, no video game playing has ever caused one life. But grabbing guns and shooting them has caused lives. And so let's not talk about the guns, let's talk about video games. And the studies that we were just talking about, in fact, many of them are methodologically flawed, and that's why the American Psychological Association said there is an association in watching video games and some imitation of violence in some people, but not all.
But if you go a little farther above this conversation, what you'll see is happening is all we're doing is blame shifting. That's all it is. What we need to do is get to the real root of the problem.
But the people who are watching this tonight, it seems like our society is lost in terms of what to do. There is no consensus, and we're looking, whether it's the science or our politicians, to help form a consensus. And I'm not saying this is an either-or approach, but obviously, Julio, the doctor is saying that, and we have talked about the gun issue on the show, but if you could respond to what the doctor was saying in terms of the one thing that's common in these massacres, which are the guns.
I'm going to agree in part and disagree in part. First, I agree that it is a far stretch to say that playing video games will cause a violent crime. I will disagree in the statement that no video game ever caused a child to go out and imitate cross the threshold from virtual reality to real reality and perform a violent crime. I think that's a stretch. But the reality is really this. It is multifactorial. It is a factor. When we talk about issues of grieving and having difficulty with pain and coping with pain and coping with life stressors, there's no question that if we are raising our kids in an environment where they are focused on things that are either antisocial in nature and recurrent in exposure, there's no question that they're going to have more difficulty with grieving and with dealing with their stressors. Whether that leads to any particular crime, that's a different story. But I do believe firmly that it is a factor amongst many that is leading to some of the social demise that we're seeing today.
We have to leave it there. But FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Republican State Representative Julio Gonzalez, psychologist Eddie Rainier, and Candy McNally, a grief counselor in the Sarasota area. When we return, we'll be joined by Michael Snipes, an economics professor at USF Sarasota Manatee, who will be here to discuss the thousands of tariffs announced by President Trump. Stay with us.
The La Musica International Chamber Music Festival, the annual celebration of a distinctive cultural gem in Sarasota, with renowned musicians from around the world. April 9th through April 18th at the Sarasota Opera House. Visit lamusicafestival.org, click on Festival, open tickets, and get your seats now.
Accolades are great. Just wait until you see our prices. Rugs as Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He went through seizures.
We'd much rather have Aaron like this than dead. A lot of parents don't have that luxury.
He can't talk. He can't walk. This is a condition Aaron will live with for the rest of his life because he abused prescription pills.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Thank you. Hi, have a good night. Be safe.
What are you doing? You are the best protection she has. Buddy up. I'm Jill Harrington. Please visit HelpSaveTheNextGirl.com and get involved.
Enjoy some of the best Suncoast restaurants on me. Just go to mysuncoast.com/dining, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already, and you can win a $50 gift card to a restaurant in our area. We'll pick a winner each week, so go on our website and sign up now.
Welcome back. Recently, the president announced additional tariffs on goods beyond steel and aluminum. In response, China has announced tariffs on U.S. goods, but the consensus among economists are that these tariffs will end up hurting consumers. And here to tell us more is Michael Snipes, an economics professor at USF Sarasota Manatee. And what we love about having you on, Michael, these days is that you bring props.
Yeah, I think every now and then having some visual aids helps in understanding. And so I've got an example here to really try and help people understand really why tariffs, at least from an economics perspective, why tariffs are not really a good thing. And so I've got an example worked up. So to take a slightly different approach here.
Okay.
Right? So let's say that we have 2 countries. So let's say that we've got the country of Reagany.
I bet you know that.
Yes, that's my daughter.
Okay.
Yes, she's a princess, so she should have her own country. And let's say that we have the country of Estonia.
I did not plan this, folks.
And so let's say that these 2 countries, let's say that they are producing televisions, right? So both of these countries can produce televisions. And let's say that a television costs $300 in Reagany. And let's say that a television costs $250 in Estonia. So it seems like there's an opportunity here for both countries to be better off, right? So let's say that Estonia comes to Reagany and says, I'm willing to sell you a television for $275. So from Estonia's perspective, that's a good deal because they're now earning 25 more dollars. So from their perspective, it's a good deal. But from Reaganese perspective, right, still, they're now able to buy televisions for $25 cheaper, so they're now $25 better off as well. So let's say that now we have the country that's importing, we have Reaganese, let's say they import a tariff of 5%, right? And this tariff is going to increase the price of televisions by 5% to $288.75. So what that means is that essentially consumers in Reaganese are paying a higher price, and that's going to make them worse off. So now they're no longer $25 better off, they're only better off by $11.25. So people or consumers in Reaganese, they're paying a higher price. So in that case, they're worse off, right? But at the same time, if we think about it, in Reaganese, if we are having to pay a higher price, what that means is that we're also going to be consuming less. So in Reaganese, we'll also have a quantity effect. We're going to be importing less because it's more expensive, which means that we're going to be consuming less. And so if we're consuming less and we're paying more for that consumption, certainly consumers in this country are going to be worse off. But Estonia is also going to be worse off. If Reaganese is buying fewer televisions, then that means that Estonia is going to be selling fewer televisions. So they're still able to sell their televisions at $275, but they're simply selling fewer televisions.
Well, you explained that. I feel very bad for the people in Reaganese, but I tell you what, that is a really good-looking, charismatic leader of Estonia. And if you play your cards right, you could be the chief economic advisor to the new president.
Yes.
For life. Michael, thank you very much. Michael Snipes joins us every Thursday to discuss world of economics. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, Russia is speaking out about the poisoning of a spy. Stay with us.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. So wet.
Are you a food lover, restaurant goer, or home cook? Then check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC 7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, and helpful step-by-step videos. And you'll love the restaurant guide with direct links to your favorite Suncoast eateries. Whether you're cooking in or dining out, whet your appetite with tasty tips from Chef Judy at mysuncoast.com/dining.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more. I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check of our first alert forecast with Estonia's chief climatologist, Bob Harrigan.
I want to be Ragnes. That's the better one. No, you are the chief, I guess, there, right? Anna Maria webcam showing some clear skies around right now. And it looks like it will stay that way, too, overnight. We're not looking for any significant weather to cause any concerns out there. And in the Bay, at least, Bimini Bay, pretty calm. But Out in the Gulf of Mexico, it was a little bit rough going because of those winds picking up behind that front. Well, a lot of photos sent in. Leanne Chung getting this one from just behind New College. You can see some of those high cirrus clouds off in the distance there. Same here. Dennis Kovac getting this one, and he calls it whispers. And just you can see that wispy clouds off in the distance there associated with the ice crystals that make up the cirrus clouds, a different perspective from a different direction. Frank getting this one. Again, appreciate all the photos. Keep them coming. Pics, P-I-X at mysuncoast.com. And remember, too, it's just not photos. You can also send in videos, too. So if you see something interesting, take video and send it in as well. Some showers down to our south, and Alan's favorite, some military chaff coming in a different direction right there off just northwest of Key West. But that rainfall over Monroe County is legitimate. No rain around here. Things are quiet. A few showers I mentioned still lingering here. There's that chaff I mentioned. Again, the sky's clear and 76 degrees. The dew point temperature is what's so nice. The sun has just set, as you just saw there. The dew point at 53 degrees. The relative humidity 45%. That is really very nice. Now, the forecast tomorrow will be a little cooler to start things off. You'll notice it. I know I will. The temperatures into the low 60s there. We'll warm up to right around 82 degrees by midday. That's slightly above the average with plenty of sunshine. So Friday looks to be really outstanding. And remember, we've got Music on Main tomorrow night, and looks like should be great weather for that. Well, there's the front. It's gone through us. That's that snowstorm that caused all sorts of headaches earlier this week in parts of the Northeast. And now this one is not that well organized yet, but the trough in the jet stream with a little polar vortex continues to kind of filter on down. So winter is not leaving the folks over the northern plains and the Great Lakes. In fact, all the way down to the mid-Mississippi Valley. This moisture will eventually turn into snow down the road, but right now it's causing all sorts of headaches for California. This steady stream of moisture exists all the way to Hawaii. That's how long it is, and it's going to be a rough go there for the next couple of days. Well, the watches and warnings are out right now. These are winter weather warnings and advisories stretching from Nebraska all the way up into North Dakota. And then you have some freeze and frost warnings in effect for Oklahoma, southern Missouri, and lake warnings across Lake Michigan and also Lake Erie. Well, here's the first snow forecast. Tomorrow morning, snow in Detroit near Toledo, but also Cleveland getting some rain-snow mix. That quickly moves on to the northeast. Kind of another one melds into that as the cold front comes down. More snow into West Virginia, Kentucky, and into southeast Missouri. Now, here comes another one on Sunday. This snowstorm, another clipper system, will cause all sorts of headaches over the northern portions of the United States. We'll have obviously much more on that coming up at 11 o'clock tonight. For boaters, winds out of the east turning to the southwest at 10 knots, and seas running right around 2 feet tomorrow. There'll be a bit of a moderate chop on Saturday, coming back down to a light chop on Sunday. So it's a lot going on. Fast-moving systems mean nice day tomorrow, a chance for showers late Saturday. Don't cancel your outdoor plans throughout the day. 30% chance for showers on Sunday morning mainly. And then 40% chance late Monday as yet another front moves in. Better chances for rain throughout our area on Tuesday at 50%. But temperatures remaining pretty close to seasonal averages. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after this. Stick around.
I heard about the Dotole Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotole Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
The Wild Broadway series brings you Funny Girl. Fanny Brice dreams of being famous and through sheer guts and determination becomes a star of the Ziegfeld Follies. Playing March 28th through April 15th, it's the songs and story that generations have grown to love. Call the Players Center at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. Don't rain on my parade. Come see Funny Girl.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me and me help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android. This is awesome. You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
The skills you develop as a soldier in the Army National Guard can give you a head start on your career. Gain practical experience with technology and equipment that will give you a leg up in the civilian world. Learn critical leadership skills and to be part of a team. Serve your community and your country part-time while earning money for an education. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about the paid training and career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
My life motto is keep moving. And as hard as it was when my husband passed away, I knew I had to keep doing what I love. Oops, coming. But I needed help with my insurance, and that's what the NAIC provides. They have resources to help you and your family make the best decision, and they'll help you to keep moving forward, just like me.
Checking primetime headlines, Russia is denying it had anything to do with the poisoning of a former spy and his daughter in the United Kingdom last month. They are calling on the UK to show proof. ABC's Aaron Katersky is in New York with the story.
Busloads of American diplomats left Moscow today after Russia expelled them in an ongoing spat over the poisoning of a former spy and his daughter in England. Yulia Skripal is now out of a coma and spoke by phone with a cousin. She later released a statement through British police that said, "I woke up over a week ago now, and am glad to say my strength is growing daily." The Brits say Skripal and her father Sergei were poisoned last month with a military-grade nerve agent, and that Russia is to blame.
We hear all the, let's say, stories and the some kind of theories about our motivations. We don't buy it.
The Russians called a special meeting of the UN Security Council to demand Britain lay out its case.
We have said, as the Russian ambassador quoted, that it is highly likely Russia carried out this assassination.
The British said the Skripals were poisoned with a nerve agent Russia has made before and is capable of making again. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, New York.
President Trump making his first public acknowledgement of the scandal surrounding his reported sexual affair with porn star Stormy Daniels today. Trump denying knowing about the $130,000 payment made by his attorney the week before the election.
Do you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
I took my first handful of pills, and that's when all my priorities seemed to change.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes.
He just assumed that they would have medication.
He'd go in their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
I wish I knew really what these prescription pills were.
We were so naive about the whole drug thing.
These are all synthetic forms of heroin.
Keep your medication locked up because you'll never notice that a pill is gone.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Every time you purchase a fishing license or register your boat, you're helping to preserve our nation's coastlines, lakes, rivers, and streams, protecting memories for generations to come. Learn how your participation in boating and fishing can help the environment at takemefishing.org/conservation.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes, B, console her,
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend.
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Get breaking news alerts focused on the Suncoast. Download the ABC7 News app.